Come on up here. Sure. Prime Minister, welcome to Halifax. Welcome to Nova Scotia. That's it. On behalf of everybody here at the Halifax shipyard, I want to extend a very warm and welcome greeting to you this morning. We're really excited about having you here. This is the biggest military contract that Canada's ever let in Canada's history, and we're really proud, shipbuilders, to be making that here, right here at home in Nova Scotia. So, as well, we want to let you know there's over 4,000 Nova Scotians, direct employees and contractors working here in Nova Scotia, and over 9,000 across Canada. It's a big Canadian project, and it's first class, and I can report to you, sir, we're on schedule, and we're making it happen for you, and we really appreciate the latest contract we got of the new warships, the River class. So thank you and your government, appreciate it. And folks, let's give the Prime Minister a big round of applause. Welcome. Thanks very much. Okay.
Thank you, Jim. Alors, merci. Thank you, Jim. Bonjour tout le monde. I'm going to start. This is what Canada Strong looks like. This is what Canada Strong is. And I'm thrilled to be joined by Nova Scotia MPs and candidates Shannon, Darren, Lena, Jaime, Cody, Jessica, Braden, and Alana. And this is what a strong government looks like behind me. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining. You know, I don't have to be asked twice to come to Halifax. In fact, I insist on coming to Halifax. I've been coming here for decades for vacations, for business. I love jogging in Point Pleasant Park, dining on Argyle Street. In fact, I can't exhaust all the restaurants. And it's great to be back in Nova Scotia for today's announcement because it ties in with the province's long history with the sea and its proud legacy of shipbuilding from Yarmouth to Pictou, from Lunenburg, and of course here to Halifax. Je suis très content d'être ici à Halifax pour parler du futur, dans une ville chargée d'histoire. C'est près d'ici, à Pier 21, que tant de gens qui ont bâti le Canada qu'on connaît aujourd'hui ont, pour la première fois, mis les pieds au pays. C'est ici que tant de soldats canadiens se sont embarqués pour défendre la démocratie, la liberté, l'humanité. Pour trop, Halifax a été leur dernière vue du Canada. Tant de chapitres de notre histoire ont été écrits ici et aujourd'hui, avec vous, les travailleurs, on a écrit une autre. It's workers like those around me and behind me who have made this city, this province, and this country what it is today. You, those who came before you, forged our very history, and you are building our future. Whenever Canada is in need, workers such as here at the Irving Shipyard have stepped up. And I want to say thank you. My colleagues want to say thank you on behalf of a grateful nation. And we need you because these are challenging times. Our world is changing. It's becoming more divided and dangerous. Our adversaries are increasingly emboldened, and the norms that have kept Canada and the world secure are in peril. The priorities of the United States, once closely aligned to our own, have shifted. Our sovereignty is under threat. Notre relation avec les États-Unis sera toujours importante, mais on ne peut plus en dépendre comme on l'a fait dans le passé. Le monde ne peut plus en dépendre comme il l'a fait dans le passé. President Trump wants to break us so America can own us. We will not let that happen. You know, as Canadians, we're over the shock of the betrayal, but we should never forget the lessons. We have to look out for ourselves, and we have to look out for each other. And that's what Canadians do. And that's what my government is doing during this crisis. We're acting to protect workers affected by the tariffs. We're using every dollar collected from our retaliatory tariffs to protect those workers, as I announced last week, because we know that we are stronger when we are together. We cannot let anyone, not American politicians or Canadian politicians, make us angry or divided. Well, President Trump's plan is to divide and conquer. Pierre Poilievre's plan is to divide and be conquered. His negative slogans aren't solutions. His anger isn't action. His division isn't strength. Negativity won't win a trade war. Negativity won't pay the rent or the mortgage. Negativity won't bring down the price of groceries. Negativity won't make Canada strong. And the first part of Canada Strong, it means an armed forces that are well-resourced and has those very resources at the ready. And we're here, I'm here, to make that happen. Our military is still underfunded. Under the last Conservative government, when Pierre Poilievre was a minister, that government was spending less than 1% of GDP on defense. And Conservatives abandoned our armed forces and shamefully abandoned our veterans, closing area offices across Canada. Since then, Canada has doubled down on our national shipbuilding strategy, which right here in Halifax is creating good-paying union jobs for Canadian workers. On a créé de bons emplois et de la richesse dans des chantiers navals de l'océan à l'autre. Et depuis, on a renversé la décision du précédent gouvernement conservateur qui a injustement exclu le chantier des vies. On le fait au Québec aussi. We are modernizing NORAD, investing in new technologies and working with new partners, including Australia. And I made an announcement in Nunavut last week to protect Canadians. We are building new military installations and increasing the presence of Canadian armed forces in the Arctic to defend our sovereignty, the North, and those who call it home. And since the end of Pierre Poilievre's Conservative government, defense spending has more than doubled. I repeat, defense spending has more than doubled in the last decade. But it's not enough for the new environment we're in. And that's why today I'm announcing my plan to rebuild, reinvest, and rearm. We will expand the capabilities of the Navy with new submarines and additional heavy icebreakers to defend the North. We will deliver an unprecedented acceleration of investment in our armed forces so that we can defend every inch of our sovereign territory while helping to support and defend our allies abroad. Wanted to come here today to make clear, we are fully committed to all orders underway through the National Shipbuilding Strategy. That's over 21,000 jobs across the country, including 9,500 right here in Halifax and Dartmouth, supported each year through the construction of 8 Arctic and offshore patrol ships and 15 River-class destroyers. This is crucial. This is crucial. But, you know, when I was, just take a moment, when I was, had the pleasure of taking the tour with Nancy Lockhart, I met a young apprentice, Victoria, who said, "This gives me a career." And that's a key message. We are building for the long term. We're building Canada strong, not for an election cycle, but to protect Canadians. We're building for the long term. And these people behind me, their children, their friends, their neighbors, have careers in shipbuilding to protect this great country. Now, we have more to do in the immediate term. We will move immediately to fill the Canadian Armed Forces shortage of over 14,000 members by modernizing our recruitment process, giving Canadian Forces members a raise, building new on-base housing, improving access to doctors, mental health services, and childcare. And we'll ensure that Canadian troops defending Canada at home have the same equipment capabilities as those defending our allies abroad. We will expand the reach and the ability of the Canadian Coast Guard and integrate them into our NATO defense capabilities. We will give the Canadian Coast Guard a new mandate and the right equipment to conduct maritime surveillance to secure our coasts. We will also create first-class drone capability that will build and deploy aquatic and airborne uncrewed vehicles to defend our Arctic, our undersea infrastructure, our borders, and yes, our allies. And when doing this, we will ensure as much as possible that Canadian companies benefit from Canadian procurements, an end to sending dollar after dollar south of the border to a nation that is threatening us. They will use Canadian steel and aluminum. They will use Canadian suppliers and companies. They will use and employ Canadian workers. And that's all part of a broader modernization of how we procure. We will modernize our procurement legislation so that our forces can buy equipment when they need and what they need, which is now. Now, we don't want any more excuses for leaving funds on the table when we need to strengthen our defenses. Every dollar will be focused on value for money, ensuring we make wise investments in building our capabilities and getting us to our 2% NATO target before 2030. Our sovereignty faces the greatest threats in generations. The world is becoming more divided and dangerous. And this plan will help ensure that Canada is strong at home and strong abroad. My government is building, arming, and investing in the Canadian Armed Forces. My government is stepping up and fighting for Canada. We're defending our borders, our sovereignty, our minerals, our water, our land, our way of life. Le Canada est fort. ensemble, on va le rendre encore plus fort. On est et on va rester maître chez nous. Finally, this is the most consequential election of our lifetimes. And my government is meeting the moment with purpose and with force. Canadians want solutions, not slogans. They want positive action, not anger. They want calm, not chaos. They want strength, not division. They want a government that will fight for them. My government is doing that, and we always will, because we know that together, we are Canada strong. Merci beaucoup. Thank you. Now I'll take your question.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Thank you, Prime Minister. We'll now begin the question period. We'll take a question from the delegation and then a few local questions at the very end. First question.
Good morning.
Yeah.
Good morning, Steve Chase with the Globe and Mail. We have a story today in the paper about India's efforts to meddle in the last Conservative leadership race. Now, your predecessor had asked Pierre Poilievre to get a security clearance so he could obtain briefings about threats. You, of course, have obtained a security clearance. You've been briefed. And that brings me to my question. Just before the election, you removed a 3-term Liberal candidate from the riding of Nepean, Chandra Arya. That's a very serious decision and a very drastic decision. You've been briefed. Can you tell us why this was necessary, and did it have something to do with his close relations with the Modi government in India?
Thank you for your question, Steve. Let me say a few things. The first is that I find it beyond baffling. I find it downright irresponsible that the leader of the opposition, day after day, month after month, year after year, refuses to obtain his security clearance. As a normal course in peacetime, when times were tranquil, that's unacceptable then. But at this point in our history, when we face the greatest threats that we faced in generations, in most of our lifetimes, he has to answer for that. And he particularly has to answer for that, given the reporting that I understand you did, you and your colleagues did today, and the lack of integrity in the Conservative leadership race. Now, I will observe that in the Liberal leadership race, every effort was made to protect the integrity of that race, including, I'll be frank, quite an onerous technical system for voting to verify identity, location, so that that was held up. And some people couldn't vote because of that. We decided to take that risk because we wanted the highest integrity for that race. As part of that process, of course, there were reviews of candidates and suitability, myself included, appropriately. Certain information came to light. I'm not privy to the exact information. It's a separate process. Certain candidates were disqualified from that race. That information was relevant to the decision of what is a separate body within the Liberal Party. It was called a Green Light Committee that made the decision to disqualify Mr. Arya. I can assure you that information that we have, I'm saying broadly as a party, not me personally, because I don't have the specific information, is shared with the relevant authorities. We take this incredibly serious. Steve, I want to make one other point, if I may, and I'll hand back. One of the acts that I took as Prime Minister in the 9 days between being sworn in and asking the Governor-General to dissolve Parliament and call this election was to strengthen the critical election incident protocol. It's a protocol that had been put in place a few years ago, but various measures to strengthen that, and also to encourage greater transparency from that group during the election campaign, so that if issues arise during the election campaign, in their independent judgment, that they will share with all Canadians and ensure that Canadians have the confidence, which I have at this point, the full confidence in the integrity of the federal election process. I'll hand back. Pardon? En français, en ce qui concerne. Alors, en résumé, c'est irresponsable la position de le chef d'opposition. Il refuse, jour après jour, mois après mois, année après année, d'obtenir sa cote sécuritaire. C'est bizarre, c'est inacceptable. Moi, je l'ai fait dans 2 semaines. 3 semaines, OK, 3 semaines, OK, de commencement et fin. Et nous sommes dans un moment dans notre histoire avec des menaces étrangères qui sont extraordinaires. Il faut le faire. Il faut le faire comme chef. Chaque chef de parti doit le faire. OK. En ce qui concerne le processus, le Parti libéral a pris plusieurs mesures de protéger le processus de la course de la chefferie et ça rend le processus plus difficile pour des électeurs, mais c'est correct afin d'avoir un processus avec l'intégrité. Et en ce qui concerne l'élection fédérale, maintenant, j'ai renforcé le comité actuel qui est responsable, c'est un comité indépendant qui est responsable de surveiller l'ingérence étrangère. Okay. Steve?
Follow-up question. It's about your defense announcement today. The reason we ask for specifics is so we can track later whether you're living up to your pledges. You've talked about submarines. How many submarines? Is it the 12 the Navy wants? Is it less than that? How many extra heavy icebreakers? Are they able to break year-round ice, or are they slush breakers? What do you have in mind?
Yeah.
You talk about pay raise for the forces. You talk about a underwater drone fleet. Can we get any detail at all on any of this?
What we're going to do, Steve, is, and it's the right question or follow-up, is we will be laying out in the platform the specifics of all the specifics we can at this stage, respecting commercial confidentiality, not confidentiality, commercial considerations, because particularly with respect to the submarines, these are contracts to be negotiated. They are measured in the tens and tens of billions of dollars in terms of ultimate cost for the submarines. And we don't want to put the Canadian taxpayer at a disadvantage by being overly specific or prescriptive on the precise aspects of that. With respect to the other ships, though we will be specific. With respect to the salary increase, we will be specific. With respect to the overall defense spend, and the differentiation between operating and capital spend, but how the overall defense spend as a percentage of GDP, which is a relevant number for some, how that changes with these measures and more. We will have more defense announcements with the platform and before the platform comes out. So we will lay all that out. As well, we will cost our broader electoral platform, so you can see the balance of fiscal and how we're balancing the budget. So ça arrive dans quelques semaines. C'est le résumé en français, madame. Okay.
Oui, bonjour, M. Carney. Laurence Martin de Radio-Canada. Hier, sur le débat de TVA, vous nous avez dit pourquoi pas. Finalement, vous n'y allez pas. Qu'est-ce qui vous a fait changer d'idée? Est-ce que c'est parce que, selon ce que dit M. Blanchette, vous vous cachez?
Non, j'ai dit pourquoi pas si on a un débat avec tous les chefs des partis. Évidemment, le chef ou les chefs du Parti vert ne seront pas là dans le débat de TVA. Mais j'ai hâte d'avoir un débat avec tous les chefs des partis. Il y aura un débat en français, en anglais, qui va être surveillé par la commission électorale. Je crois que c'est le 16 et le 17 avril, dans quelques semaines, en effet. Alors, ça c'est ma réponse.
In English, please.
Well, I said that, yeah, why not? If we have a debate with all of the leaders of the parties, I now realize that the leader of the Greens were not invited. There are two leaders of the Green Party, as you know. As well, we have the debates, which I look forward to, overseen by the Electoral Commission in French and in English. The 16th and 17th are the dates. I look forward to those debates, and I'll add that look. I have spent, during my leadership campaign, I spent more time in Quebec than any other province. I'm going there in 2 days. I have engaged on, je m'occupe sur les grands enjeux pour le Québec en ce qui concerne la culture, la langue française, la gestion de l'offre et plusieurs d'autres enjeux qui sont uniques pour le Québec. Alors, I'm very much out in the open. Je ne cache pas du tout.
Il y a des femmes libérales qui vous reprochent d'avoir beaucoup d'hommes dans votre entourage, surtout dans des positions haut placées. Qu'est-ce que vous leur répondez?
C'est pas correct. Il y a deux chefs de mon bureau. Janice Charette, elle est une femme, hein? Elle est le sous-chef, et Marco Mendicino, il est un homme. J'ai plusieurs femmes dans mon équipe et je suis fier des candidats forts. Il y a plusieurs ici, hein? Exactement. Alors, on a plusieurs. Nous sommes unis et on va se battre pour le Canada et pour les droits des femmes. Merci.
Good morning, Ashley Brooks, CBC News. Can you give us an update on your review of the purchase of the F-35 fighter jets with the U.S.? And you're here at Irving. They'll be building Canada's new destroyers. Will you commit to a review of the U.S.-made combat system on those warships?
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Ashley. So in terms of the F-35, as you know, I asked the Minister of Defense a little more than a week ago to review that contract, to be absolutely clear whether it's the F-35 or an alternative aircraft that is doing the best job to defend our country, getting the best value for money, and part of that value for money includes the maximum economic impact here in Canada. We're here at the Irving shipyard. You can see the economic impact of this contract. You can feel it literally in the room with the individuals, with the supply chains and the effects beyond. So on the F-35, it's a question first and foremost, as it is for all of these investments, is it making Canada more secure, and is it doing so in the most effective way? We have alternatives to the F-35, so we will explore those, as the Minister of Defense and the procurement will explore how the F-35 program could be adjusted, including greater investment here in Canada, greater production here in Canada, in ways that have that maximum economic impact, as well as securing us. In terms of the combat systems, look, there is a high degree of interoperability, as you know, between Canada and the U.S. Our forces, it's been built up over decades, and that extends to the material and our weapon systems. We are increasingly deliberate about the costs and benefits, or the risks and benefits of that interoperability. The United States is still a strong ally. It is still a member of NATO, and we see advantages. But actually, in all aspects of our procurement, we will be thinking about how to secure Canadians and how to have the maximum benefit for Canadians, because that is what will make Canada strong.
Okay, so no review on the combat systems. And can you give us and as well, there's a report that members of Trump's cabinet and senior security advisors discussed a secret war plan in a group chat that included a reporter from The Atlantic. In light of that, do you have any concerns about Canada sharing confidential information with the U.S.?
I think that, you know, I have had in various guises top secret security clearance here in Canada, elsewhere. I have it again. I'm aware that from time to time information leaks. It's a serious, serious issue. And all lessons must be taken from any of those, including in this circumstance. We have a very strong intelligence partnership with the Americans through Five Eyes. Mistakes do happen, but what's important is how people react to those mistakes and how they tighten them up. They don't deny the mistakes, but they are clear and transparent in addressing them. But I'll just say one other thing, if I may, about the broad thrust of your question, if I may interpret it. Our responsibility, my responsibility, is to plan for the worst, is to think about the most difficult evolution of the new threat environment, what it means for Canada, and how do we best protect Canada. And part of that response is to be more and more Canadian in our defense capabilities, more and more Canadian in our decisions, to take greater ownership. As I said in my remarks, and you've heard me say this before, we have to look out for ourselves.
Hi, Brian Platt with Bloomberg News. We're 8 days out from Donald Trump's next stated tariff deadline of April 2nd. We know you have not spoken with the president yet since you took office. What is your government's engagement strategy ahead of April 2nd with the White House? And will any ministers or officials be traveling to Washington before April 2nd?
Well, I think two things, Brian. One is that the ministers, the Minister of International Trade, Mr. Leblanc, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Madame Joly, the Minister of Finance, the Minister of National Security, others, are in contact with their counterparts. Okay? First point. Second is we have learned, and others have learned over time, that there is an unpredictability to U.S. trade policy. There is certainly an opacity to U.S. trade policy. So how does one respond to that? What you do is you prepare for the worst, and part of that is what we have done in the last weeks. We have made substantial changes to our unemployment insurance program to support Canadian workers. We, unlike the Conservative Party, which is going to use the tariff revenues for tax cuts, use everything for tax cuts, by the way, we are going to use retaliatory tariff revenues to protect Canadian workers and to reinvest there. We have put in place major financial support mechanisms for Canadian companies. We are going to allow them to defer tax payments, also for liquidity purposes. We put in support mechanisms. Cody is behind me. For the Minister of Agriculture is behind me, support mechanisms in the agriculture sector as well. So we've taken a number of precautionary measures so that we can react quickly there. We also have in place a schedule of goods for which we can add retaliatory tariffs to on April 2nd, depending on what the Americans do. So we have done that work and have the ability to put those tariffs in place. And with respect to the president, the point is to have substantive discussions. The point is not theater. The point is to get serious. Sovereign nation to sovereign nation. That's what we're looking for in terms of putting this trading relationship back on a new path that works best for Canada, given the unreliability of America.
In terms of if new tariffs are put on Canada on April 2nd, in terms of a response, you've pointed to the counter tariff list that was already prepared. Are there any non-tariff measures that are on the table next week for Canada? And I'm thinking particularly export controls or export taxes.
I would focus on those measures are options for Canada. I'll speak in general for Canada. But the tariff response in the near term is several-fold. One is everything I just mentioned, I won't repeat, on protection for workers and firms and others. Secondly, retaliatory tariffs in a way that has maximum impact on America and a minimum impact here on Canada. So we'll be very deliberate on that. Thirdly, it's Canadian procurement, a greater focus on Canadian procurement. And you will have heard in my announcement today this focus on Canadian steel and aluminum, And of course, Irving can be a big part of that as we build out. Fourthly, all the measures to build our economy strong. And, that's why the federal-provincial meeting last Friday was so important, because that commitment to move to free trade in Canada, with the federal government, my government, committing that we will remove federal barriers by Canada Day, legislate to remove those barriers. This is huge. I mean, look, the people behind me have great skilled trades, and actually they have a whole career ahead of them given the shipbuilding contracts. But some of them, for family reasons or other reasons, might want to move to Alberta for a job. They're mechanical engineers, or they're electrical engineers, or they're skilled welders, tradespeople. They might want to move to Alberta, BC, the Northwest Territories, for some opportunity. We're going to make sure that they can do it like that. Okay, that's a different thing. So all of that doesn't sound like a trade response, but it is a trade response. And I'll put it again. This is doing it because it's right for Canada. We're in charge of our destiny. But the other thing it does is it shows the Americans that we're strong. And we're going to get stronger while they get weaker, because they are inflicting harm on themselves with these tariffs. And that is going to put us in a better place for negotiations when they come. And that is a crucial point. We're not rushing to the table to take something. Serious discussions, sovereign nation to sovereign nation, comprehensive, Canada strong against America as equals. And that's when we will get the best deal for Canada. Okay.
Yeah, local media.
Your mic isn't on.
Yeah.
I think you said last question.
Last question
is that right?
before
Yeah,
turning
okay.
to local media.
Okay.
Thank you.
Avant de médias locaux. Okay.
Merci.
Bonjour, Monsieur Carney. Vous venez de mentionner la baisse d'impôts promise par les conservateurs, mais vous promettez votre propre baisse d'impôts. Et ça va priver, si vous êtes élu, ça priverait le gouvernement, l'État, de milliards de dollars. Et en même temps, vous promettez des investissements, notamment en défense. Donc, en quoi c'est la bonne approche de priver l'État de milliards de dollars dans le contexte où vous voulez investir?
Oui, et en ce qui concerne la baisse d'impôts du Parti libéral, c'est à peu près 6 milliards de dollars par année. OK? À peu près 6 milliards de dollars par année. Et nous allons dévoiler le budget dans notre plateforme, OK, dans quelques semaines, OK, avec tous les coûts et tous les revenus, tous les changements dedans. Alors, mais il y a une différence, il y a une grande différence entre nous et le Parti conservateur. Parce que, par exemple, pour nous sommes ensemble dans cette situation. Et pour le Parti conservateur, c'est chacune à sa soi. Alors, il va réduire des impôts, une chute des impôts, M. Poilievre, et il va éliminer les garderies, il va éliminer la santé dentaire, il va éliminer l'assurance médicaments, il va éliminer les investissements dans le logement abordable. Il y a un choix pour les Canadiens, un grand choix entre les deux.
Vous promettez de doubler les efforts redoubler d'efforts en recrutement. Ça fait des années que l'armée travaille là-dessus, sur le recrutement. Alors, comment les Canadiens peuvent vous faire confiance que vous allez avoir la solution, que vous allez réussir à solutionner un problème qui existe dans l'armée depuis plusieurs années?
Une très bonne question. C'est une question extrêmement importante. Il faut changer le système, premièrement, le système de recrutement. Il faut augmenter les salaires. Le gouvernement vient d'augmenter les salaires pour les forces canadiennes, mais mon gouvernement va les augmente de plus. Troisièmement, il faut avoir cette idée, cette réalité d'une carrière dans les forces canadiennes. C'est une carrière parce que nous allons investir, rebâtir les forces canadiennes pendant des décennies, OK, ça, c'est une carrière. Alors, c'est une grande option, c'est un grand changement d'attitude et j'ai confiance, j'ai la confiance qu'on va réussir. Merci.
Merci. Maintenant, la délégation locale. To the local delegation,
Okay.
please. We'll do one question.
Yeah, hi, Taryn Grant with CBC Nova Scotia. My colleagues just reported that Sean Fraser has changed his mind and will be taking the nomination in central Nova Scotia. Why do you think it's justified to allow former politicians to take a nomination when another candidate has already been named?
First thing, Sean Fraser is an exceptional public servant. And he took a decision to, for family reasons, to withdraw from public life, and I respected that. I regretted it, but I respected it. I and my colleagues have wanted Sean Fraser to come back and serve Canada at this crucial time. Sean stepping up for our country, if that indeed is what he's going to announce later today, and I don't know that's the case, if that indeed is what he's going to announce later today, is exceptionally good news for Canada, and it is a symbol. It's another sign, rather, of what you see behind me with these great candidates, and we see across this country, of exceptional people stepping up for the Liberal Party at the country's time of need. And I think you'll find that everyone in the Liberal Party in Central Nova, including prospective candidate, is thrilled if Sean is indeed going to be our candidate. Well, you'll have to wait a few more hours to find that determination.
Thank you.
Il est exceptionnel. Monsieur Fraser est un servant public exceptionnel. Et j'ai hâte d'avoir lui comme un collègue dans la Chambre de commerce.
Next question.
C'est plus direct en français.
Prime Minister, Ella MacDonald, Global News, Halifax. Affordability in our province, specifically when it comes to housing and rent, is a major challenge for Nova Scotians. In Halifax, people are struggling to afford a roof over their heads, and in other areas of the province. What would your government do to address this issue of affordability for Nova Scotians?
Okay, I'm very pleased you raised the issue, and you know, part of the challenge of the affordability here, as you know, being on the ground, is in part because of the success of Halifax in recent years. A lot of people coming to Halifax, but the system is straining, and the housing system is straining, and affordability, in particular with respect to housing, is exceptionally difficult. Absolutely know that. So, what are we doing? We're doing several things. In the immediate term, we are this is a permanent change, but we are eliminating GST for first-time home buyers, and that is a savings of up to $50,000 off the price of a home. And so, you know, you're thinking around a third of the purchases are first-time home buyers for new and substantially renovated homes. So that's the first thing. The second thing is we, unlike the Conservatives, are focused on supply. So one of the biggest impacts on supply is something that we go back to Mr. Fraser just mentioned that he put in place as Minister of Housing, is the Housing Accelerator Fund, which is a very effective way, it's proven very effective here in Halifax, Quebec City, Saskatoon, across the country, to get what are called development charges down, accelerate the building of that. But the third thing that needs to happen, and I'm just going to ask for your patience for a couple of more days, is we need to build affordable housing at a scale we haven't seen since the Second World War. My government is going to do that.
Thank you.
Last question, dernière question.
Hello, my name is Angel Moore, APTN National News. Here in Nova Scotia, the fishery is very important to all people. Just recently, 3 Mi'kmaq leaderships of Sabaganagati, Millbrook, and Member 2 First Nations say they do not need DFO or federal authorization, and they are going to fish to assert their inherent Aboriginal rights. Do you support this?
What I support is dialogue which balances Aboriginal rights, the realities of the fishery that works towards a sustainable fishery here in Nova Scotia, throughout Atlantic Canada, across this country. And it's one of many reasons why I'm proud to be standing up here with Jaime Batista, and as well as Darren Fisher and well as the whole group, because what we bring, and this is a core point, this is a fundamental point. What the Liberal Party is bringing to this election is all of Canada. Whether it's a Sean Fraser, a Jaime Batista, Darren Fisher, okay, I'm going to get in trouble, Lena, and beyond, everyone behind me, and beyond, from different walks of life, from different experiences, different perspectives, coming together to work out problems. And so we need that, and this has been fundamental for me, is to make sure that we have a Liberal team that has, at the front line, the MPs that are putting themselves forward, that has that breadth of experience. So we're not just relying on the civil service, as good as the civil service is, and we're not just relying on consultations with stakeholder groups. And I would add as well, just on the last point, it was my privilege as Prime Minister to meet with the leaders of the national Indigenous organizations last Friday. And, you know, I made a point, final point. I made a point both in signal and in substance in my first days as Prime Minister of going back to the founding peoples of this country. The core founding peoples, of course, are the Indigenous peoples of Canada, but also recognizing le fait français avec ma visite à la France et avec le président, et puis the YMUNI meeting with the United Kingdom. So with that, thank you for your questions. And
Merci.
are you,
Merci,
are you the last local person? Can we? Okay, I feel that, yeah.
2 minutes, please.
Yeah.
2
Thank you.
minutes.
Thank you,
He's gonna
Mr.
get-
Carney.
Yeah, I'm going to let.
Very quick, Mr.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr.
Okay.
Emerson.
I'm Jacob Moore with Acadia Broadcasting. We have stations in parts of the province that really rely on fisheries. And being sandwiched between the tariffs from China
Yeah.
and the U.S., what will you tell people who rely on that, who are worried about their jobs disappearing?
Well, look, first is very focused on, I met with the Minister of Fisheries and Oceans 2 days ago, 36 hours ago, going through a number of issues around that. We have put in place a series of measures to protect workers, engagement with both the Americans, Chinese on these issues, something we discussed at First Ministers. Look, we're going to fight. We're going to fight for the fishery. We're fighting for a sustainable fishery. It's integral. I mean, look, these are people's livelihoods. It's part of who we are as Canadians. It's part of our core identity. And so no greater priority. So the message is we're there. And again, we have representation, and it's very important to have that representation at the table, fighting for those individuals, and we're going to do everything we can to support the fishery through this period and for the medium term. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Merci. C'est ce qui va faire la conférence de presse.